It was a time of peace on Earth, or at least that's what people believed. The world was busy with its own challenges, but out in the vast stretches of space, something was happening, something that could change everything. For centuries, Earth's people had gazed up at the stars, dreaming of what lay beyond. They had heard whispers of ancient civilizations and powerful beings that lived among the galaxies. Some had wondered if humanity was ready to join that ancient community, while others were content to stay in their small corner of the universe. Yet when the signal came from deep space, it didn't matter whether they were ready or not. The signal was first detected by a small observatory in the remote mountains of Tibet. It was faint at first, a simple pulse of energy, too strange to identify. The scientists who picked it up spent weeks trying to decode it. It wasn't long before they realized the signal wasn't just noise. It was a message, a warning. The signal was from the elder races, a collection of beings far older than humanity, living on a distant world. They were the first to settle among the stars and had knowledge of things humanity couldn't even dream of. The message was clear. A great threat was coming. An unstoppable force, a fleet of massive machines known as steel behemoths, was on its way to their world, and they feared it might be too late to stop them. The United Nations, already aware of Earth's growing potential in space exploration, quickly responded. An emergency meeting was called, and representatives from all over the world gathered. There was panic at first. How could Earth, with its limited technology, possibly help these ancient beings? The elders were known to possess knowledge that could shatter everything humanity understood about the universe. But they were also fragile, living on a planet teetering on the brink of destruction due to the growing threat of the behemoths. The solution was one that no one had anticipated. The elders didn't want an army. They didn't ask for soldiers to fight the machines. What they requested, in their calm, ancient way, was something entirely different. Peacekeepers. Peacekeepers were not warriors. They were individuals chosen for their intelligence, diplomacy, and understanding of technology and culture. They were the peace bringers, the problem solvers, and the healers of the galaxy. The peacekeepers were meant to stand as mediators, to solve problems before they escalated into violence. Earth's leaders were hesitant. Peacekeepers. The idea seemed idealistic, even naive. The steel behemoths were machines of destruction. How could peace be achieved with something that had no interest in understanding or compromise? But the elders had their reasons. They believed that it was not the behemoths that were the true enemy. It was the lack of understanding, the inability to bridge gaps between different forms of life and technology. The United Nations began selecting candidates from Earth's finest minds. A small group of individuals, all experts in different fields, diplomacy, engineering, science, and even ancient languages, were chosen. They would be Earth's peacekeepers, sent to meet the elders and attempt the impossible, to find a way to stop the steel behemoths without violence. As the team prepared, they were briefed on the situation. The elders' world was a place of beauty, an ancient land that had seen countless generations come and go. The behemoths, gigantic metal machines, had once been protectors of the land. But something had gone wrong. These machines, built to defend the planet, were now out of control, consuming the very energy they were meant to protect. They were growing unstable, and the planet's delicate balance was at risk. The peacekeepers knew that they were not just embarking on a mission to stop machines. They were on a mission to save an entire civilization. Their journey would take them to the farthest reaches of space, to a world they had only ever heard of in ancient myths. It was a daunting task, but one that they could not turn away from. As the team of peacekeepers boarded their ship, they felt the weight of the mission ahead. They weren't soldiers or warriors. They were representatives of Earth, carrying the hopes of a young species to help an ancient civilization in its darkest hour. The journey ahead was uncertain, but there was a strange feeling in the air, an undeniable sense of destiny. They didn't know how they would succeed, but they knew they had to try. The ship lifted off from Earth, leaving behind a world that was still unaware of the dangers lurking in the stars. It was a mission like no other, one that would test the limits of human potential, and one that could forever change the future of Earth and the elder races. As the Peacekeepers sailed into the vastness of space, they couldn't help but wonder, would they be able to prevent the coming disaster? Or would they, too, fall before the power of the steel behemoths? Only time would tell, but one thing was clear. Earth's response to the ancient threat had just begun. The Peacekeepers had been chosen, Earth's best and brightest. They came from all corners of the globe, each bringing unique skills and knowledge to the mission. They weren't warriors, and they didn't carry weapons meant for destruction. They were diplomats, engineers, scientists, and negotiators, selected for one purpose: to find a peaceful solution to a galactic crisis. The ship that would carry them was unlike anything the world had ever seen. A massive vessel built using a combination of Earth's finest technology and a few innovative designs inspired by the ancient knowledge of the elders. The ship gleamed in the light of distant stars, sleek and streamlined, its purpose clear: to carry the Peacekeepers to the heart of the unknown. As the team settled in, they quickly realized that this journey would be unlike any mission they had ever faced. There were no clear answers, no guarantees of success. They were heading into uncharted territory, to meet beings far older and more powerful than anything humanity had ever encountered. But there was something else that hung in the air, an undeniable sense of responsibility. If the Peacekeepers failed, the elder races could be destroyed, and Earth's fragile position in the galaxy could be threatened forever. The stakes were higher than any of them had ever imagined. At the heart of the team was Commander Lisa Carter, a seasoned diplomat and the leader of the Peacekeepers. She had spent years working with international organizations to resolve conflicts, but nothing could prepare her for what lay ahead. She understood the importance of the mission, but she also knew that reaching the elders and gaining their trust would be the hardest part. Carter sat in the command center of the ship, her hands resting on the table as the others gathered around. She looked out at the vast expanse of space, her mind racing. "We've been chosen for this mission because of our unique skills," she said, her voice steady. "We must prove to the elders that we understand their situation. We need to show them that humanity is capable of more than just violence." Dr. Amir Khan, the team's lead engineer, nodded. "And we must also learn from them. They've lived for eons. Their knowledge could save Earth from the mistakes we're still making." The others agreed. Each one of them had a vital role to play in the mission. Dr. Emily Tan, a linguist and cultural expert, had spent years studying ancient languages and civilizations. She would be responsible for bridging the communication gap between Earth and the elder races. Lieutenant Marcus Holt, a former soldier with a background in peacekeeping operations, would provide tactical support and be a calming presence during tense situations. Finally, there was Dr. Sofia Alvarez, a scientist specializing in energy systems. She would work to understand the mysterious power behind the steel behemoths and how they could be stabilized without violence. The crew worked together, going over their mission objectives. They would arrive on the Elders' world soon, and the unknown stretched before them like an open road, filled with uncertainty. The Elders, with their age-old wisdom, would be waiting. But what would they find? As they approached the world where the Elders lived, the crew couldn't help but marvel at its beauty. It was a place of tranquility, with vast oceans, towering mountains, and lush forests that stretched for miles. The air was thick with the scent of ancient trees, and the ground seemed alive with history. There were no cities or bustling streets here, just nature at its most magnificent, untouched by time. The ship landed gently on the surface, and the team disembarked, taking in the serene surroundings. They were met by a group of elder beings, tall, dignified, and glowing with an ethereal presence. Their faces were ancient, their eyes full of wisdom that stretched back countless generations. The Peacekeepers felt small in their presence, but they also felt a deep sense of respect. Commander Carter stepped forward, her heart racing. She was the first to speak. "We come in peace," she said, her voice strong but gentle. "We have heard your call and are here to help. Earth is ready to listen and learn." The elder beings looked at her, their eyes piercing yet kind. One of them, a figure with silver hair that cascaded like a waterfall, stepped forward. He spoke in a voice that was rich and deep, resonating with an ancient power. "You are the Peacekeepers from Earth?" he asked, his gaze never leaving Carter's. "Yes," she replied, "we are, and we hope to find a solution that will save your world from the steel behemoths." The elder being nodded slowly. "We have been waiting for you," he said. "Your kind understands balance, something we have lost in our desperation." The Peacekeepers followed the elders to a vast council hall, where they would begin their discussions. The room was filled with ancient symbols carved into the walls, glowing faintly with a light that seemed to pulse with the energy of the world itself. The elders spoke of the Behemoths, huge, powerful machines once created to protect the land. But now, something was wrong. They had grown unstable, and the energy they consumed had begun to spiral out of control. "We built them to protect us," the elder leader explained. "But in our pursuit of progress, we have lost our way. Now, we need help." Commander Carter and her team listened intently, absorbing every word. They were beginning to understand the magnitude of the situation. The Behemoths were not just machines. They were a symbol of the balance that had been broken. The Peacekeepers were not just here to stop a threat. They were here to restore a fragile harmony that had been lost long ago. As the meeting concluded, Carter turned to her team. "We have a long road ahead," she said, determination in her voice. "But together, we can find a solution. We must. For them, for us, and for the future." And so, the Peacekeepers' mission began. They would face obstacles, doubts, and perhaps even danger, but their resolve was clear. They were Earth's answer to the greatest challenge the galaxy had ever known, and they would not fail. The world of the Elders was unlike anything the Peacekeepers had ever seen. As the team ventured further into the Elders' land, they marveled at the peaceful beauty that surrounded them. Towering trees with glowing leaves spread over vast fields. Crystal-clear rivers wound through valleys, their waters sparkling as if they were touched by the stars. The air was heavy with the scent of ancient flowers, and everything seemed to be in perfect balance. The Peacekeepers, though awed, knew they couldn't get distracted. Their mission was critical, and they had little time to waste. They were here to understand and help, not just to admire the scenery. Commander Lisa Carter walked at the front, her thoughts focused. She knew this mission would not be easy. The Elders' world held mysteries they still hadn't begun to understand, and the Behemoths were growing more dangerous with every passing moment. After a few days of settling in, the Elders decided it was time for the Peacekeepers to meet with their leaders in person. The council hall was unlike any building on Earth. Made of living stone, the hall rose from the earth like a mountain, with walls that shimmered as though they were alive. It was in this ancient space that the fate of the Elders, and perhaps all of the galaxy, would be decided. As they entered the hall, the Peacekeepers felt the weight of the Elders' centuries of wisdom. The council hall was filled with several elder beings, their forms radiating with energy that seemed to come from within. The Peacekeepers immediately understood. These beings were far more than just advanced civilizations. They were a link between nature and the universe, connected in ways humanity had yet to grasp. One of the elders, a tall figure with skin that seemed to shimmer like polished silver, stepped forward. His presence was commanding, yet calming. He spoke in a voice that was deep and ancient, resonating through the hall. "Welcome, Peacekeepers of Earth. We have waited for your arrival." Commander Carter stepped forward, maintaining a respectful distance but speaking clearly. "We are honored to be here. We understand the urgency of your situation, and we come to help. Tell us more about the Behemoths and how we can assist." The elder nodded. "The Behemoths were once our guardians. They were created to protect us, to maintain the balance of our world. But now something has gone terribly wrong. They were designed to harness the energy of our planet, but they have become uncontrollable. The more they draw, the more unstable they become. Soon, they will destroy everything. The Peacekeepers listened carefully, their minds racing to understand the complexities of the situation. The Behemoths were no mere machines. They were ancient, powered by energy sources unknown to humanity. They had been designed to safeguard the planet, yet in the process, they had become a threat to the very world they were meant to protect. Dr. Amir Khan, the team's lead engineer, spoke up. If they were designed to harness the planet's energy, then perhaps the problem lies in the way they're using that energy. Could there be a flaw in the system, a way to redirect the flow of power to stabilize them? The elder leader looked thoughtful. That is a possibility. But the problem is deeper than just the machines. The Behemoths are tied to the very core of our planet. They are part of the land itself, connected through an ancient energy network. That connection has become twisted. We do not know how to fix it. We have tried, but the machines have become too powerful. The Peacekeepers exchanged glances, the weight of their task settling on their shoulders. This wasn't just a matter of turning off a machine or fixing a broken system. The Behemoths were tied to the planet's life force, and anything they did could have unimaginable consequences. Dr. Sofia Alvarez, the team's energy expert, took a step forward. If the Behemoths are connected to the planet's core, we'll need to understand how this energy system works. Perhaps we can find a way to stabilize it from within the network itself, before the Behemoth's power spirals out of control. The elder leader nodded. It will not be easy, but we will show you what we have discovered so far. You must be careful. One wrong move, and the Behemoths will be beyond our reach forever. The Peacekeepers were led to a hidden chamber deep within the Elder's city, where the true power of the Behemoths lay. There, a massive glowing stone, the size of a mountain, pulsed with energy. The stone was ancient, older than anything the Peacekeepers had seen, and it was the source of the power that the Behemoths drew from. Around the stone, intricate lines of energy spiraled like veins, connecting to each Behemoth that stood guard across the land. Dr. Alvarez examined the stone closely, her eyes wide with both wonder and concern. This is beyond anything we've ever encountered. The energy here is not just power, it's alive, in a way. We do not fully understand it, said the elder leader, but we know that it must be carefully controlled. The Behemoths are feeding on this energy, but they no longer understand the balance. That is why they are failing. Commander Carter looked at her team. This was more than just a technical problem. It was a philosophical one. The Behemoths were not simply machines. They were a part of the planet's essence. Fixing them would require more than just knowledge of energy systems. It would require understanding that deeper connection between nature and technology. We need to find a way to reconnect the Behemoths with the planet's energy, Carter said, her voice firm. We'll need to balance the flow of power, but we have to do it in a way that respects the natural order here. The elders nodded, and the Peacekeepers felt the weight of their words. This was not just about saving a world, it was about restoring balance to an entire civilization. As they prepared to leave the chamber, the elder leader spoke once more. We are placing our trust in you, Peacekeepers. We hope you will succeed where we have failed. The Peacekeepers walked away from the chamber with a renewed sense of purpose. The road ahead was uncertain, but they knew they had to try. Earth's future, the elder race's future, and the fate of countless worlds rested on their shoulders. The Peacekeepers stood on the edge of the massive chamber, their minds full of questions and their hearts heavy with the weight of their task. The glowing stone, which had seemed so majestic at first, now felt like a burden. They knew that this energy, this ancient force, was the key to solving the problem of the Behemoths, but it also carried dangers they could not yet understand. Dr. Sofia Alvarez, the energy expert, was the first to speak. This energy, it's unlike anything we've ever studied. It's not just power, it feels organic, as if it's alive. The Behemoths draw from it, But it's clear now that something's gone wrong. Commander Lisa Carter turned to Dr. Alvarez. Do you think we can stabilize it? Find a way to restore balance between the behemoths and the planet's core? Sophia hesitated, looking at the swirling patterns of energy that surrounded the glowing stone. It's possible, but it won't be easy. The connection between the behemoths and this core is so deep, it's hard to say how far we can push it without causing a catastrophe. Carter nodded grimly. Then we need to approach this with caution. We can't afford to fail. The team had been given little time to gather their thoughts before the elders called for a meeting. The Peacekeepers had learned a lot in a short time, but it was clear that they still had much to learn about the intricate balance of the Elder world and the role the behemoths played in it. Their mission was to not only stop the machines, but also restore the natural balance that had been disturbed. When they arrived at the council hall, the elder leader who had spoken to them earlier greeted them again. His silver hair shimmered in the soft light, and his eyes held a depth of knowledge that made the Peacekeepers feel both small and inspired. We must show you something, he said, his voice deep and filled with reverence. They followed him to a different part of the Elder City, a place that seemed even more ancient than the rest. The path was lined with trees whose branches twisted in strange, elegant patterns. The ground beneath their feet was smooth, yet there was a strange hum in the air, as though the earth itself was alive. As they walked, the elder spoke. In ancient times, before the behemoths were built, our people lived in harmony with the planet. We understood its rhythms and its needs. We knew when to take and when to give. The energy we now harness was never meant to be used recklessly. One of the Peacekeepers, Dr. Emily Tan, the linguist, asked, "What changed? What happened to that balance?" The elder paused, looking at the ground. Greed, desire for control. We created the behemoths to protect us, but in doing so, we took too much. We became too dependent on them. The machines were designed to serve the planet, but over time, we became slaves to them. The Peacekeepers exchanged worried glances. This wasn't just a matter of fixing a broken machine. It was a fundamental flaw in how the elder race had lived for centuries. They had lost sight of the balance that had once kept their world in harmony. The elder leader led them to a large open space where the ground seemed to hum with energy. In the center of the space stood an ancient monument, a tree so large that its branches seemed to touch the sky. The tree's trunk was a deep shade of blue, and its leaves shimmered like stars. The monument had no visible roots. It was as though it had grown straight from the energy of the planet itself. "This is the source of all life on our world," the elder explained. "This tree is the keeper of balance. It is what gives us our connection to the planet, to the behemoths, and to each other. Long ago, we learned to live in harmony with it. But now, the behemoths consume too much energy, and the tree's life force is weakening. If we do not restore balance soon, everything will be lost." The Peacekeepers stood in silence, taking in the weight of the elder's words. The behemoths were not just machines. They were part of an ancient network that connected the planet's life force to the energy they had harnessed. The Peacekeepers had come to fix a problem they hadn't fully understood, and now they were beginning to realize just how complex and fragile the situation was. "We need to find a way to reconnect the behemoths to this source," Dr. Alvarez said, her voice determined. "If the energy from the core can be directed properly, we might be able to restore balance without causing any more harm." The elder nodded gravely. "That is our hope, but it will require more than just your knowledge. It will require understanding the rhythms of the planet, the flow of energy, and the bond we once had with it. You must learn to see the world as we do." Commander Carter looked at her team. The task ahead was enormous, but they had no choice but to try. The Peacekeepers had come to help, not just with technology, but with understanding. They had to find a way to see beyond the machines, to look deeper at the true problem, the disconnection from the world they were meant to protect. "We'll need more time," Carter said. "We need to study the energy network and how it flows through the behemoths and the planet. But first, we need to understand what has caused the break in the balance. The elder leader's eyes softened. Time is something we do not have. The behemoths are growing more unstable by the day. We fear that we have already reached the tipping point. The peacekeepers felt the gravity of the elder's words. The clock was ticking, and if they couldn't restore balance soon, the behemoths would destroy everything. Their world, their energy source, and perhaps their entire civilization. Then we must hurry, Carter said, her voice steady. We'll find a way together. And so, with renewed determination, the peacekeepers set to work. They had a deep, dangerous task ahead of them, but one thing was clear. If they could restore balance, they would not only save the Elder's world, but also prove that even in the face of great power, peace could still be the answer. The days that followed were filled with hard work and even harder questions. The peacekeepers had been given an impossible task: to restore balance to an entire world and stop the behemoths from consuming the planet's life force. But with every passing hour, the team grew more determined to succeed. They had learned that the key to solving the crisis lay not only in the behemoths themselves, but in the deep connection between the energy of the planet and its ancient guardians. Commander Lisa Carter knew they had to act quickly. The elders had made it clear. The behemoths were becoming increasingly unstable, and if they didn't restore balance soon, the consequences could be disastrous. But how could they restore something that had been lost for so long? How could they understand the rhythms of the planet, the flow of energy, and reconnect everything that had been broken? The peacekeepers gathered in the command center of their ship, their minds focused on the task ahead. They had spent countless hours studying the information the elders had shared, but nothing seemed to offer a clear solution. They had no guide, no clear path. The situation was fragile, and every decision they made could tip the balance. We need to understand how the behemoths are drawing energy from the core, Dr. Amir Khan said. We know the energy is connected to the planet's life force, but we haven't figured out how the behemoths have become so dangerous. We need to pinpoint where the problem lies. Dr. Sofia Alvarez agreed. It's more than just the machines. The behemoths are part of an ancient system. They've been draining the planet's energy for so long that it's thrown everything out of sync. We need to learn how to redirect the flow before it spirals completely out of control. The peacekeepers understood the importance of what they were saying. They had to find a way to reconnect the behemoths with the planet's life force. But it wasn't going to be easy. The ancient energy network that had once been in perfect harmony was now fractured. It would require not just knowledge of technology and science, but also an understanding of the delicate balance between the living energy of the planet and the machines. They spent the next several days in intense study, working alongside the elders who shared their knowledge and wisdom. The elders took them to the heart of the planet's energy system, a vast network of underground tunnels where the energy from the core flowed to the behemoths. The tunnels were ancient and strange, covered in markings that seemed to tell a story. Some of the markings glowed faintly, while others seemed to shift and change as the group moved closer. Dr. Alvarez carefully examined the energy lines. These markings, they seem to represent the flow of energy, she said. But there's something off about them. The lines are twisted, as though the energy has been forced out of its natural course. Commander Carter observed the patterns, her mind racing. So the energy isn't flowing naturally. It's being redirected, controlled by the behemoths. Dr. Emily Tan, the linguist, stepped forward. I think I understand. These markings are more than just patterns. They're instructions, guides for the energy flow. If we can decipher them, we might be able to retrace the original path of the energy and restore its natural course. The elder leader, who had accompanied them, nodded in agreement. You are right. These markings are part of our ancient knowledge. They were created to ensure the flow of energy would remain balanced. But something happened. We lost our understanding of these symbols, and the behemoths began to feed without restraint. The peacekeepers realized that the solution lay not in fixing the behemoths directly, but in rediscovering the lost knowledge that had kept the energy flow in balance. The markings on the walls of the tunnels held the key to restoring the natural course of the planet's energy. If they could unlock the secrets within these symbols, they could reconnect the Behemoths to the planet's life force, bringing balance back to the system. Over the next few days, the Peacekeepers worked tirelessly, translating the markings and studying the flow of energy. It was a delicate task, as every change they made could have unintended consequences. But slowly they began to understand the intricacies of the system. They discovered that the Behemoths were not meant to draw all the energy from the planet's core at once. They were supposed to act as guardians, drawing only what was necessary to maintain balance. The problem, they realized, was that the Behemoths had been pulling too much energy, overloading the system and causing the planet's life force to weaken. "We need to create a new system," Dr. Alvarez said. "One that doesn't rely on the Behemoths consuming all the energy. We can redirect the energy flow, but we'll need to guide it back into the core in a way that won't cause an overload." The elder leader agreed. "You must act quickly. The Behemoths are already too powerful. The longer you wait, the harder it will be to restore balance." With time running out, the Peacekeepers set their plan into motion. They would use their understanding of the energy flow to create a new system, one that would allow the Behemoths to draw the energy they needed without draining the planet's life force. It would be a delicate balance, and they would have to be precise, but they believed it was their only chance. Commander Carter addressed her team. "We're not just saving the Elder's world. We're saving all worlds that depend on balance. If we can restore this, we'll show the galaxy that peace can be achieved, even in the face of such power." As they prepared to execute their plan, the Peacekeepers felt a surge of determination. They were about to take a bold step into the unknown. But they knew they had no other choice. The fate of the Elders, their world, and the Behemoths rested in their hands. The tension in the air was thick as the Peacekeepers gathered in the central command room. The plan was set, but the risk was enormous. Every decision they made could have lasting consequences. They had come to understand that restoring balance to the Behemoths would not be as simple as redirecting energy. It was a delicate dance between technology and nature, and one wrong move could trigger a disaster. Commander Lisa Carter stood at the front of the room, her eyes scanning the holographic map of the planet. The Behemoths were scattered across the land, their energy consumption growing at an alarming rate. They had already seen the signs of instability. The earth was trembling, and the air felt thick with tension. If they didn't act soon, everything could be lost. "We've analyzed the energy patterns," Dr. Sofia Alvarez said, her voice calm but with a hint of urgency. "The Behemoths are drawing far more energy than they should. The core is overcharged, and the imbalance is reaching critical levels. We have to redirect the flow, or we risk destabilizing the entire planet." Commander Carter nodded, her face hardening with resolve. "We know. The energy needs to be channeled back to the core in a balanced way, but we can't risk overloading it further. If we do this wrong, the Behemoths will become completely uncontrollable." Dr. Amir Khan, the lead engineer, glanced over at the plan they had drawn up. It was ambitious, too ambitious, some might say. The Behemoths will have to be reprogrammed to accept the new flow. "We've set up a series of energy channels that should redirect power back into the core, but it requires synchronization between all of them. If even one fails, it could cause a chain reaction." Emily Tan, the linguist who had been studying the ancient markings, added, "The symbols we deciphered. They point to a fail-safe mechanism. We believe that if we activate it at the right moment, it will stabilize the Behemoths. But that moment is fleeting. If we wait too long, we'll lose our chance." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the gravity of the situation. They had spent weeks learning about the planet's delicate balance, but now, in this moment, they were the ones responsible for it. The Peacekeepers had always believed in the power of unity, of working together to solve problems. But this wasn't just a technical challenge. It was a test of their strength, their resolve, and their ability to understand something far greater than themselves. "Let's get to work," Commander Carter said, breaking the silence. "We have a planet to save." The team moved quickly, each member performing their part with precision. They were calm on the surface, but inside, their hearts raced. They knew what was at stake. They had faced challenges before, but this was different. This was the first time they had truly been asked to protect not just their own world, but another civilization, one with a rich history and a deep connection to the land. As they worked to set up the final adjustments to the energy channels, the elders stood nearby, watching with a mixture of hope and fear in their eyes. They had trusted the Peacekeepers, but even they knew there was no guarantee that this plan would work. The energy they were dealing with was ancient, unpredictable, and volatile. "We have to act quickly," Dr. Alvarez said, glancing at the countdown clock. "The Behemoths are already responding to the increased energy levels. If we don't stabilize them soon, it will be too late." With every passing minute, the tension grew. The Peacekeepers had to move faster, their fingers flying over the controls as they aligned the energy channels. They had no margin for error. The Behemoths were getting stronger, and the planet's life force was becoming more unstable by the second. As the final adjustments were made, Commander Carter turned to Dr. Alvarez. "It's time." Dr. Alvarez nodded and activated the fail-safe mechanism. A deep hum filled the room as the energy began to shift, flowing through the channels and toward the Behemoths. For a moment, everything seemed to hold its breath. The energy pulse moved smoothly through the system, and the Behemoths began to respond. Slowly, their massive forms stopped trembling, and the energy flow began to stabilize. It was working, but only just. But then, something unexpected happened. One of the Behemoths, located in the farthest corner of the planet, began to pulse erratically. Its energy readings shot up dangerously, as if it were rejecting the new flow. The ground trembled beneath the Peacekeepers' feet. "No," Dr. Khan shouted, his hands flying over the control panel. "It's resisting the flow. We need to adjust the channels now." Carter's mind raced. They had no time to make manual adjustments. The energy flow was reaching dangerous levels. "Emily," Carter shouted to the linguist. "The markings. We need that fail-safe now." Now. Emily's eyes widened as she quickly accessed the ancient markings on her tablet. She had studied them endlessly, but now, in this moment, they seemed to come alive. She muttered the ancient words under her breath as her fingers danced over the holographic interface. The markings responded, glowing brighter as she activated the fail-safe. With a loud hum, the energy channels adjusted automatically, and the erratic behemoth slowly began to stabilize. The tremors stopped, and the energy flow finally reached a harmonious balance. The team let out a collective sigh of relief, their bodies sagging with exhaustion. They had done it. The behemoths were under control, the balance had been restored, and the planet was safe. For now. As the Peacekeepers gathered around, Commander Carter's voice was steady. "We've done it. We've saved them." The elder leader stepped forward, his eyes filled with gratitude. "You have restored what was lost. You have shown us that balance is possible. Our people are forever in your debt." The Peacekeepers exchanged glances, a quiet sense of pride filling their hearts. They had faced the impossible and emerged victorious. But as they looked out at the calm, stable horizon, they knew this victory was not just for the elders. It was for all civilizations, for all worlds, that depended on balance and harmony. The sun rose over the horizon, casting a golden glow over the peaceful world below. The once raging tremors had ceased, and the land had settled into a calm, serene silence. The behemoths, now restored to their original purpose, stood motionless, no longer feeding off the planet's energy in uncontrolled bursts. The balance had been restored, but the journey had only just begun. For the Peacekeepers, the task of ensuring the planet's future would require much more than just solving the immediate crisis. They had to ensure the elders never lost their way again. Commander Lisa Carter stood at the edge of the Elder City, looking out at the horizon. The air felt fresh, free from the oppressive energy that had once clouded it. She could feel the weight of what they had accomplished, but there was also a quiet sense of foreboding. The Peacekeepers had saved this world, but the threat of imbalance could never be completely erased. Dr. Sofia Alvarez joined her, gazing at the distant behemoths. "We did it," she said, her voice filled with both exhaustion and relief. "We've stabilized the energy flow, and the behemoths are functioning as they were meant to. The planet is safe, for now. But we can't forget what we learned here," Carter replied, her eyes focused on the elder leader approaching them. "The balance between technology and nature isn't something that can be restored overnight. It took centuries for the elders to lose their way, and it'll take time to rebuild that connection." The elder leader, whose name was Alun, walked up to them with a solemn expression. "You have done what we could not. You've saved us, and for that, we are eternally grateful." His voice was soft, but it carried the weight of generations. "But you are right. This world's future is fragile. It is not enough to fix the behemoths and restore the energy. We must rebuild our relationship with the planet." Carter nodded. "We can help with that. We've learned a lot from you, and we've seen the mistakes of the past. We'll assist in sharing knowledge to ensure that the behemoths remain balanced and that the planet's life force is not drained again." Alun's eyes softened, and he placed his hand on his chest, a gesture of respect. "The knowledge you offer is invaluable, but we must also teach our people to respect the land once more. It is not just about using energy. It is about understanding it, living with it, not above it. If we are to heal, it will take both wisdom and patience." As Alun spoke, the other elders gathered around, their faces filled with both awe and hope. They had witnessed the power of the Peacekeepers, but they knew that true change would come from within their own people. It would be up to them to preserve the delicate balance that had been restored, ensuring that the behemoths never again grew too powerful, and that the energy from the core was used with respect and caution. "Will you stay with us?" Alun asked, his voice soft yet sincere. "Your wisdom and guidance would be a gift to our people as we rebuild." Carter considered the offer for a moment. The Peacekeepers had come to this world with a mission, to fix what had gone wrong. But they had also learned something valuable along the way. It wasn't enough to fix a problem. True change required understanding, teaching, and working together. And the Peacekeepers had a responsibility to ensure that this fragile planet would never fall into the same trap again. "We'll stay as long as we're needed," Carter said, her voice firm. "We'll work with you, share our knowledge, and help guide your people toward a new future, one built on balance and respect." Over the following weeks, the Peacekeepers worked hand in hand with the elders, helping to rebuild the energy systems and teaching them how to monitor and maintain the balance they had once lost. They shared their technology, their wisdom, and their understanding of the natural world, helping the elders integrate the lessons of the past into their future. The behemoths, now functioning properly, were no longer seen as tools of power, but as guardians, necessary protectors that could not be misused. Dr. Emily Tan, who had been instrumental in deciphering the ancient markings, spent much of her time working with the elders to teach them how to read the symbols and understand the deeper meanings behind them. The markings were not just instructions for energy flow. They were a cultural map, a guide to living in harmony with the planet. The elders slowly began to grasp their significance, and their relationship with the energy of the planet transformed. But the Peacekeepers knew that this process would take time. Trust had to be rebuilt, and the elders had to relearn the balance between nature and technology. The behemoths, once feared and misunderstood, were now allies, and the planet, which had once been on the brink of destruction, was starting to heal. As the weeks passed, the Peacekeepers began to prepare to leave. They had done what they came to do, and the planet was no longer on the brink of collapse. But they knew they couldn't stay forever. The elders had learned much, but the future of their world was now in their hands. On the day the Peacekeepers prepared to depart, Elun and the elders gathered to see them off. "You have given us more than just knowledge," Elun said, his voice filled with emotion. "You've given us hope, and that is something we will never forget." Carter smiled, feeling a deep sense of pride. "Hope is the greatest gift anyone can give, but you must keep it alive. The future is in your hands now." As the Peacekeepers boarded their ship and took off, they looked back at the planet they had saved. The Behemoths stood tall and still, their energy flow balanced and steady. The world was no longer a place of chaos and destruction. It was a place of healing and renewal. The Peacekeepers had succeeded, not just in stopping a threat, but in showing that peace and balance could be restored, even in the most difficult of circumstances. And as they flew toward the stars, they knew that their mission was far from over. There were other worlds out there, other civilizations that needed their help, and the Peacekeepers would be ready, wherever their journey took them.